Some of you folks new to Montana might know of Chief Joseph, who has said, "From where the sun now stands, I'll fight no more forever," in his last battle up in the Bears Paw Mountains, just south of the Canadian border. But, you know, he had brought his people from eastern Oregon and Idaho across the Idaho Panhandle, and he had done it by way of the northern Nez Perce Trail across the very rugged mountains of the northern Idaho Panhandle. It's the same trail that Lewis and Clark used to go from Traveler's Rest by Lolo, following the rivers going west till they got down to Lewiston, Idaho, Grangeville area. That was the northern Nez Perce Trail. Well, today I'm standing on the southern Nez Perce Trail, which is about 100 miles farther south, and it's very rough. If you look at a map of Idaho, you know, it's kind of no man's land. The Idaho people think it's part of Idaho, but really it's part of Montana. That's the way I look at it. I spent a big part of my life out here, and they call it the Selway Wilderness Area. It's the largest wilderness area in the lower 48. There's a bigger one up in Alaska, I'm told. But the Selway's huge. And then when you add to that the Magruder Corridor that's beneath it, and then this Salmon River Breaks, or River of No Return primitive area, and then go below that to the Frank Church area in Idaho, you're talking a huge, huge area. That's pretty well as it's been in its history. It's a wilderness, a series of wildernesses. And I enjoyed my life here for several years, both working out in the woods and then as a smoke jumper. But anyhow, where I'm standing is on the southern Nez Perce Trail, which follows the northern edge of the River of No Return, the Salmon River, you know, the Marilyn Monroe movie, River of No Return. You can only go one way on that river. You can't come back up unless you got a jet boat, but that takes you west. So if you want to come across Idaho, anywhere down around the Salmon River, you got to follow this southern Nez Perce Trail, which is rugged, to say the least. Those Native American families and tribal members, women carrying babies, they had to be tough as nails to follow this. But you can, and you can follow the trail from, Lewiston, Idaho, Grangeville, Idaho, really, but from Elk City, it's about 125 miles across northern Idaho and then a little bit of western Montana until you get up to about Lost Trail Pass, where Lewis and Clark lost their way. And you can find the trail if you're lost by looking at the Indian trees. You'll see the big ponderosa pine, beautiful ponderosa pine now, but you'll see that the bark around the base of some of them has been peeled back down to the cambium layer. The Nez Perce would leave some of the cambium there to keep the tree alive, and so after hundreds of years, the tree's still there, but a big piece of the bark is gone. And the Nez Perce would eat that cambium layer right above the wood because it was sweet, had a lot of nutrients in it, and it was flavorful. They could make use it to flavor their other dishes. And so you can always know when you're on the Nez Perce Trail if you see those Indian trees, they're called. If you get on the Highway 93 at the foot of Lost Trail Pass, you'll see Indian trees campground. You get a good look at them. But when you get back up in this country, which is, you can get lost in this country big time. There's only one road that takes you along the northern edge of the River of No Return, and it's the Elk City Road that was built by the Civilian Conservation Corps back in the 30s. And it's a long, long, long road. And there's no gas stations, hardly any place to stop and camp, and it goes all the way across Idaho. But just to the north of this road, sometimes impinging on it, but to the north of it, if you get down in the canyons and onto some of the ridges, you'll see the Indian trees where the Nez Perce would follow this, like the Little Clearwater, and say between here on Salmon Mountain and over on Spot Mountain, where I used to be a lookout, you'll see where the Nez Perce, you know, they had their trail and they could follow it. They probably took quite a while to come across in the springtime on their way to get to the Great Plains of Montana for buffalo hunting. But this is the southern Nez Perce Trail. The reason I'm on it is because this is where one of the road agents' most awful acts took place. There was a very reputable trader named Lloyd Magruder. He had been in the Mexican War. He'd been an officer, and he had made a kind of a thing out of putting pack strings together and taking them to some of these remote mining camps. And so he had brought a pack string of goods from Lewiston, Idaho, along this southern Nez Perce Trail, over to Lost Trail Pass, then across the Big Hole, then down to Virginia City, and he'd set up a store there and sold all of his stuff. He had 5 of his own guys with him, and they'd sold everything. And they left Virginia City loaded down with gold and greenbacks, right? The highest number I've heard total was about $30,000, which was quite a bit of money in those days. About, I think, 4,000 of it was greenbacks. The rest was in gold dust. And on their way back from Virginia City, they stopped through Bannock, where Henry Plummer was still holding forth in Springer's Saloon. And they went into Springer's Saloon, and they were looking for some more guys to put into their crew, because they had procured quite a few more mules. They were going to do what they had just accomplished, only do more of it out of Lewiston, Idaho. So none other than Henry Plummer recommended these 4 guys, led by a fellow named Howard, and who Plummer knew from before down in California and some of the other gold camps. And Howard was a cutthroat from the word go, and he had his 3 guys with him. So they threw in with Lloyd Magruder, and so they came all this way to get to here, 3 miles north of here. This is a really hard place to get to. It's remote. I don't know how long it would have taken, a couple of weeks of riding, hard riding with pack strings. They must have had, I guess they had as many as 80 mules with them. 10, what would that be? 10 guys. And they were loaded down, headed back to get more stuff. So they set up camp down here on what's now called Magruder Ridge. And Magruder drew the first guard that night. And that Howard fellow that Henry Plummer, the road agent, had recommended, came up behind him with an axe and cut his head wide open, killed him dead in a doornail. And then the other 3 guys and Howard killed the other 5 men that were with Magruder. They killed 6 men in total. So this is called the Magruder Massacre Site. What they did is they rolled the dead bodies off a cliff over here on Magruder Ridge, and it became a thing. And I'll add to this commentary, I think a pretty fair appraisal of what had happened. It was done 6 years ago by a person from Idaho, because we're in Idaho now, and this they considered Montana the backside of Washington territory. And so a lot of people that are interested in Idaho and Washington history, they go out of their way to find out where the Magruder Massacre site was. But really, it's a Montana story about Montana's own Henry Plummer, the road agent, and his cutthroats and how they operated. Deeply devious people. You can't trust them. And that's something not to forget about the road agents we have today in public office. They didn't go away. They just kind of changed their stripes. Anyhow, thanks, and we'll talk to you again.